Have you ever wondered what secrets are hidden in your body? Too often when we feel pain or discomfort, we'll just go and get a massage or go to strengthen and stretch in that area, and there's nothing wrong with that. But what about if those sensations are a story of something that you need to recognize in order to heal fully? My guest today has an incredible message on how to understand and thereby heal your body. You are listening to the Danish Yoga Podcast. My name is Maria Gulager, and I encourage you to stick around for this exciting and moving interview with none less than Ina Segal. Today's episode is about the secret language of the body, and there is no one better to talk to that about than healer and best-selling author Ina Segal, who is with me now on a Skype line all the way from Australia, Melbourne. Welcome to Yogapodcasten, Ina.
Thank you.
I'm really happy that you had the time to talk with me, because I recently did this show about the slow movement. Ever since that, I just realized how precious time is as a currency. So I'm just really happy that, time and attention, really.
One of the precious commodities is time.
So let's see if I can keep the time here, because I have so many questions for you, but I'm going to put it into 3 categories, and so I don't talk too much. But so first of all, I'm curious about the secret. So you've written a lot of books, and one of them is called The Secret Language of Your Body. And so I'm curious, what is the secret and who is keeping it from who?
Well, it's actually funny, because I was, just before you called, I was watching a little video that some of my students were sharing around on Facebook of a particular person who has talked about food and the importance of food for many, many years in terms of healing. And in this particular little video, he was saying that he's made a discovery that it's not just the food, that it's actually connected to your emotions and patterns, which made me smile and kind of think, yeah, we've known this for many, many years, but I'm glad that more and more people are discovering it. So, when we say the secret, it's so much about the secret is you. It's about you knowing yourself. And what that means is actually, like you said, slowing down enough and being interested enough to connect to your body and realize that the physical body is just one small aspect of the whole big picture. We have many different energy bodies that are holding on to both very healthy and positive energy, as well as quite detrimental negative energy. And some of the most basic energy bodies that people might already be aware of are the emotional body and the mental body, as well as the etheric. So the emotional body is something that I guess more and more people are discovering, and part of its secret is that it's really in charge of the immune system and of whether you're in pain or whether you're actually feeling good. So my experience having the ability to see into people's bodies since I was about 19 or something like that is that when I look at most people's emotional bodies, they're either frozen, have dark holes in them, or are quite torn, which shows us that the thing that's the most important, what's in front of us, we have pushed away and suppressed. And in reality, that's really the first step of looking at what's going on with someone, is what emotional energy is actually stored. And that's complex as well, because it can come from, even though it feels like it's about now or it's about a particular relationship that's just showed up in your life, usually it's connected to your childhood or teenage years or even to when you were in the womb. It's really about digging deeper and exploring and feeling into. But again, from a lot of people, they've become so numb or frozen in that energy body because they've suppressed it for so long that when you ask them to connect to their feelings or their emotions, that they can't even do that. So they have to actually start from the basics in a way, which is movement. You have to wake the body up in order to have it reveal anything to you. So often we feel like, okay, we just need to meditate and connect. And for some people that's going to work really well. But if somebody is frozen and numb, that approach will not work. And the reason they're numb in the first place is because something happened that was traumatic, that they didn't know how to deal with, that they suppressed. And so the nervous system is holding on to that, and hiding in a way that memory or that experience until the person is strong enough and has the right support and is ready to release it. So I've kind of gone around, saying what's the secret, because there's not really one secret. It's a combination of many things.
Yeah. Wow, I'm like with a drop jar here because to me it changed my life to start moving, as you say, and to move intuitively and to check in with my body in a physical way. So what you're saying is actually that's just the basics. So what we can find in the physical yoga is just the basics. Is that what you're saying?
Well, again, there's so many different types of yogas, and over the many years that I've been doing this, I've explored everything from hot yoga to sexual yoga to feminine yoga to all sorts of different yogas, and I think it's really about where you're at in your development as a person to what kind of movement is going to work for you. So I go to yoga classes, very specific ones, which are where there is heat, because I love the feeling of stretching, but at the same time, I don't feel that really awakens me. It makes me feel more flexible. But for me personally, to really connect to my body, I have to move and dance and do very specific practices of bringing aliveness to my body, but not through structure. It has to be without any structure, so that the feeling, because when we have structure, it's harder to feel what's really going on, because you're really focusing on the stretch or on the breath, and that's really good as well. It's just when we are exploring something, there's got to be some more freedom in exploration. So rather than holding a particular posture, which, is great for flexibility and possibly many other things, but in terms of healing, there's got to be a discovery process, which means that there needs to be less structure in that sense of movement and more aliveness, more bringing awareness and to the body and waking it up.
Oh my God, I love it. And that is just what I feel actually, and what I tend to do. And so for me, yoga classes is inspiration for me to go out on my own and discover my body like that. So that's really good. But so I'm thinking about the pain, because a lot of what you're doing is it's healing, right? So if people have pain in their bodies, would you recommend that they start moving? Is that a good place to start? Or can you have so much pain that you're not even there, you can't think about yoga, you're just in, I know you've been in excruciating pain as well.
Well, I think that, yeah, it's so specific to a person and what's really going on for them. So for some people, movement can actually be an impossible thing to do to bring up pain, because it'll bring up way more pain. So it depends on where the person's at. You know, I've done many, many different types of processes with people, whether at times we might start with something as simple as rubbing our hands together, you know, just to create heat in the body, because that's the only way that this person can do that. And then I might start with saying, okay, let's work with color, because that's a very gentle approach to healing and connects very strongly to our astral and etheric bodies, meaning it connects into our chakra system and into our emotions, and helps to cleanse those parts of our being, which then influences the physical body dramatically. So, you know, so I might get them, like I said, to rub their hands together for about 40 seconds and then place their hands about 10 centimeters apart and start with a color like green, because I know green is a color that heals the body as a whole and helps with everything from nervous system to pain relief to connecting to the bones and just the structure of your body to back pain release. So,
did you say green?
Back pain release.
Yeah. Did you say the color green?
Yeah, green.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's you can't really go too wrong with it. So I'll get them to imagine that they're holding this ball of energy in their hands, and then very slowly start directing that energy into that part of their body that has pain. While they're doing it, then we might start to focus on the breath and really breathing that green light in as if they're pulling that green color inside, let's say, their shoulder, and then they can observe or sense that green light starts to move through the shoulder, and we focus on, well, can we let go of the tension in the shoulder first and start to relax it? And, you know, it's like, what is this green color actually looking for? It almost becomes like a vacuum cleaner. So it's looking for anything that's stuck, anything that's tense, anything that's heavy inside the body. And then we might go into, well, as we're breathing now, what is the feeling that's stuck in the body? And like I said, some people might say there is no feeling, it's just numb. So then I might say, okay, well, if you could feel the numbness, knowing that it's still a feeling and it's a feeling of protection, and if we could let go of some of that numbness, what would be beyond the numbness? What would be, if we had to go a little deeper, how can we explore more of the feeling or the sensation inside it? And what is that about? And so they might express it, and as they're expressing it, because you see the body or all the energy bodies work in a way of recognition. So just recognition already begins a letting go and a release inside the body.
Just to be recognized.
Definitely that acknowledgement of, because the body is intelligent, it's what is it really doing? It's holding a particular feeling or a thought pattern or energy because it wants you to process it. It's part of your life lesson. Let's say it's part of your way to move on, to move forward, to bring more light into your being. But as long as you're holding on to that particular pattern or that feeling, you cannot bring any positive or healing energy to yourself. You can't grow. But
you're just stuck there.
Yeah, when you recognize that there is an opportunity to grow.
Yeah. So I need to ask. It's the same question still. It's the secret question about the colors, because so they represent different things. And now you talked about the color green. How did you discover? Is that a science you can read about which color represents what? How do you?
Well, definitely, and there's different levels of depth and exploration of color. So I was always really drawn to color and found in my own experience that when I was doing healing on myself or other people, that color played a huge role in people's recovery or transformation or just feeling a little bit better at times. And so I started exploring and learning about it and, and also sharing in terms of my own experience. And there's basics in terms of understanding color because it is vibrational. So I'd get people, so like I said, to rub their hands together and visualize red as opposed to green or blue. And then I created a color card, secret language of color cards as well. And what I found was that people always said, red feels heavier and warmer, let's say, than blue. So blue feels cooler or colder. So then when and they could feel it in their hands, obviously, doing that process. So as we start to explore things like that, we go, well, blue actually makes me feel calm. It softens the nervous system. It's a color that brings more a sense of tranquility or peace. If we're looking at the chakra systems, then we look at, well, blue's connected to the throat chakra. So it's also about our ability to communicate, and it depends on the kind of blue, because it's not just the blue that's in the throat chakra. It's just the predominant color that people have found. There's green, in it, and there's turquoise and there's yellow colors as well. So it's about going, well, when I explore blue, for instance, how do I relate to it? And other people have found when they have worked more spiritually with some of the angelic beings that, for instance, Angel Gabriel works with the physical body and brings blue. So people work with that color in terms of the solar plexus when they're working with that particular angel as well. So it's quite fascinating, whereas blue can also be very calming. So if you burnt yourself, for instance, and you focus on even, bringing, blue or light blue, or I'm thinking of ice packs in Australia. They're always blue. So it's almost like you're bringing that coolness. And I found that women, for instance, who have menopause, when they've worked with blue, it's been very calming for them, and they felt again like that their whole body was cooling down, so they weren't getting the so affected by the heat that their body was producing. So and then if we look at red is such a rich color, and it's a very grounding color. It's connected to the root chakra, but it's also a color that gives us a lot of vibrancy and energy and passion and love.
And does it have to do with the nuance as well? Because there are different shades of red.
Yeah, definitely. So, each nuance does give you, each variety gives you a little bit more of, let's say, one aspect, and which is why I did the color card deck, and less of something else. But, so there might be, more passion in a particular red, and more wisdom and nurturing and nourishment in another type of red. But overall, what red does do is that it energizes us, and it also makes us stand in our power more and say, here I am. And a lot of people who have depression or chronic fatigue or any type of fatigue are actually missing red in their energy field and in their chakras, because the chakras can get very dark and stuck and
But it's not just about which color you wear, right? You have to think it or feel yourself with it.
Well, wearing color is nice as well because it's on your skin, but it's way beyond what color you wear. It's what color you might meditate on or work with in terms of actual healing a particular part of your body, and which color you, I guess, what colors you eat. So there's so many aspects around it. What colors are in your surroundings? So what color your room is painted, what sheets you have on your bed, for instance, when we spend time in nature, we see how much green there is, and so many people go into nature and get revitalized by the color in the air, but the color has a huge impact. So it's a lot about your surroundings as well, about your environment, about, yes, what you wear, what you eat, whether you meditate on a color, whether you actually combine it with a healing process and literally breathe it in, taste it, feel it, touch it. It's kind of using all our senses in terms of color.
Everything. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. I did hear you say something about, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I did hear you say something about angels. I'm gonna come back to a question about that because that's quite new to me as well, to think about angels like that. But I want to move on to question number 2. So that is, can we be healed from everything? And so, because I come from this quite dysfunctional family, and one of my questions in that is, can we be healed from a particular social background, patterns that you have that are not good for you, and what do you think about that? Because sometimes that is as well related to physical symptoms.
Well, it's not sometimes related. It's all.
No. Yeah.
But again, it's so difficult to just generalize and say, yes, every little thing can be healed, because we then, firstly, we have to define what healing means. And healing is quite different to curing. So you can have somebody heal a very deep aspect of their life and still physically look like they're sick and die. But at the same time, they have had the healing that they needed. Or you can have somebody look like they're physically fine, but they're actually quite sick inside because, as you said, where they came from, the culture, the family, there's been so much trauma that they're carrying literally these dark energies within themselves, which are eating away at them and stopping them from being who they really are or feeling good on any level. So
they're cured but not healed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we have to look at it, what are we actually talking about when we say something like that? Now, in my experience, I've seen many different things. I've seen people who have healed from everything from liver cancer through doing deep emotional work, child work, even past life work, to I've seen people, there was a man actually in Mexico that I did some distance healing on because his family came to a particular workshop that I was teaching where we were going into everything from color to the body and healing, and understanding the messages of the body and healing different aspects of the body. And he was actually in a coma and they said, he's dying. Is there anything you can do? And I said to them, well, bring me a photo of him and I'm just going to tune in and see what comes through for me. And it's quite interesting. I remember one of the biggest things that came through was that when I was connecting to him, I saw all these doors literally, and they were death doors that were opened for him.
Oh.
You know, that he was, I guess it was a very strong possibility that he was going to cross over, but I was communicating with the soul spirit part of him, and he said to me, no, I'm not ready to go. I still have a lot to do here. And he was literally being fed through a tube. So what I did is I closed all of those doors to death doors, I call them, and opened doors to life and worked on different energies to do with his being. And literally within 24 hours, he was, he came out of the coma. He was eating, which hadn't happened for a long time. I mean, on his own. And, he felt better than he'd ever felt in his life. He was, I think, already in his maybe mid to late 70s. And, I never actually met him in person, but I was connecting quite closely with his,
but just from a photo.
Yeah.
It was not even during Skype or anything. It was just from a photo.
Yeah. And, his son told me that even years later, because this happened quite a few years ago, that he still felt better than he felt before he went into the hospital and this whole experience happened, and he was living a really full life. So, you know, this man was on the edge of death, and that wasn't, I guess, his karma to experience. So he was able to heal. So we can't say, yes, this person will or won't, because it's not, it's connected to so many different things. It's connected to their karma. It's connected to themselves, how much energy they have within themselves. Are they willing to do anything themselves? How do they think about life? I mean, I've seen children who were basically told, you're going to be sick for the rest of your life, and have had surgeries for different parts of their body, and including one boy who had his eye smashed, and the doctor said, well, you know, this is pretty bad. And I did some healing with him, and this was in person, and we worked on it. I worked with something called the etheric hands. So, and actually literally with those energetic hands went into his eye and did a lot of releasing and adjusting. And I said to his mom, he'll still probably need surgery, but the only thing they're going to need to do is to push this aspect of the eye out, and he'll be fine. And she didn't know what to say. And when she took her son to the hospital, the doctors said, no, we're going to have to put a metal thing into his eye and so on. And finally, the doctor came out 20 minutes after he started the surgery and said, oh my God, I don't know what to say. The only thing we had to do was push this little part out, and the eye's fine. So, it's kind of quite amazing in terms of what you can do and what comes up for different people. Sometimes it can be more of a physiological thing, although it always, from my experience, comes from something in the past. And it's quite fascinating to see the changes that happen when we are working with emotions, with energy, with, opening ourselves beyond just what physical has to offer.
Yeah. So, but that's two examples of you healing someone. So about healing yourself and your book on that. So I was thinking, okay, I could give that book to my mom who's overweight and have chronic pain. But then from that to, I would give someone that book, and then would that person just read it and then be able to heal him or herself? That's the question, right? Because it might take more than just to read it, and
it definitely takes more than just reading it. You have to, as I keep saying to lots of people, you have to actually, well, first, if you're working on it yourself, there's got to be some level of belief. Even if it's not 100% belief, it's got to be high. It's got to be high, because otherwise people won't do it. So belief has to be there, and then then the person has to have motivation. Because again, the same way that I've said this, I've had many experiences with, with people who have worked on themselves with the processes from the book and with the processes from a lot of the workshops that I've done, including, probably almost every element that you can think of, from people having horrible migraines for years and years and years, and that's releasing, to women having reproductive issues and issues with their periods when they were never getting their period, and all of a sudden they're getting it and the pain is gone, to, people with lots of problems with their back pain, to cancers, where people have showed up and said, oh my God, you don't understand how much the book has helped me, or your work has helped me. But
they've all believed it and been motivated.
When you're working on yourself, you have to, if someone else is helping you, you can have maybe less belief because, because they have the belief. And you just have to be open. And I have worked with many people who didn't have belief as well. But for them to do it themselves is hard, because when they don't believe, they're resisting it. So on top of them actually having to work on something, the disbelief is like a blockage that doesn't allow them to even have insight into what it's about, to have any experience of healing. So they have to believe, and they have to be motivated. They have to have some willpower, which means they don't just do a process once and expect, okay, why am I not fixed? They understand it is a journey of you understanding yourself, loving yourself, and taking care of yourself. And that may include many, many aspects of you, of you recognizing everything from what might have happened in your childhood, to changing your diet, to communicating differently with someone, to thinking completely differently. I mean, my mum, I've got her onto listening to some motivational audio.
That's an easy one to do.
That are very powerful as well. It's not just motivational, but since I originally, when I encouraged her to do that, she said, oh, it's boring, I don't like it. And I said to her, just persevere, just keep going, trust me. If you want to change, you have something in your life, you have to change. You can't just be being the same and wanting a different result. And it was quite interesting because she did persevere, and now she loves it. She does it every day.
That's good.
And she's told me that many of her physical ailments that she was experiencing, including really bad hay fever and getting really bad colds and almost pneumonia type of, lung issues at times, that since she's been doing it this year, she hasn't been sick at all. And even her hay fever, which she's had for many, many years, has improved, because how she's seeing life and thinking about life has improved quite dramatically, because now she's slowed down and really taking in, well, even though she's 60, well, what is it now that I'm 60? Do I want to get really, really sick, or do I need to work on myself and get better?
Yeah. Well, so this actually answers my next question about, will the healing last? Because you're saying it's a journey, and so it will, I guess, only last if you keep working on it. Is that how I can understand it?
Absolutely. And that's my own personal experience that many people have heard me talk about or read about, was that I healed myself from debilitating back pain and digestive issues and so on. But at the same time, the physical aspect was actually, once it happened, once I realized it and I did the processes that I needed to do to let it go, it was not so difficult. But the actual deeper experience of me evolving as a human being, of me discovering all the different aspects of myself, that's a journey that I'm going to have till, in this life and in many other lifetimes. So I see it more as, as opposed to curing, where we're looking at one little aspect of ourselves and ignoring everything else. I see healing experience or experience of wellness as a constant evolution of discovering more and more about you as a human being, discovering, well, what are all my beautiful gifts and abilities and creativity, but also what are the things that I have picked up, what are the fears and dysfunctions, traumas that I've picked up, which are holding me back, not just from getting what I want, but actually from developing as a human being, of developing, let's say, as a woman. Because what I've seen, and both in myself for many years and in many other women, for instance, is that some women are in their 60s, but they've never actually been allowed to be a woman. They're still a little girl. They're still thinking like a little girl. They're still operating like a little girl.
What do you mean by that? What's the difference?
The difference is that the same self-consciousness, the same feelings of feeling bad about yourself, the same confidence, the same fears, the same limitations are still there. And it's like they got stuck in one room. Let's say your whole being is like this amazing castle with many rooms which are colorful and creative, but you're stuck in one room and you've never that you've never entered a room where you were free of of addictions or compulsions, or feeling like, I'm afraid, let's say, of a relationship or of men, or feeling addicted to men, or feeling like you can't live without one, or feeling that you can't live with one, whatever it is, but not actually growing in terms of being more of a mature person, in not in the sense of, I'm 50, so I'm mature, but more in a sense of, I have wisdom now, I have recognition, I see myself, I see my weaknesses and strength, and I work on my weaknesses and amplify.
And to depend less on others maybe as well.
Well, yeah, then it comes back to not just saying I love myself, but actually developing a very deep, profound, nourishing inner life within yourself, where that love actually emanates through you, but you feel that in the things that you want to or need to do, anything is possible, and you develop, you allow yourself to develop, let's say, as a mother, and you allow yourself to develop as a feminine woman, because so many women that I'm seeing right now have developed more as their masculine self, and have denied their feminine, which has caused a lot of physical problems, from breast cancers to reproductive problems, to just how that they have no flow in their movements anymore. They don't have flexibility, so they can't relax, basically. So their nervous system is so tense and so tight. Their jaw is tight because they haven't actually explored the pleasure of being a woman, the sensuality, the sensitivity,
That's a big one. Yeah.
You know, the colors of it.
Oh, yeah, that's so true. So great to listen to. I have my third and final question. There's several questions within one. You've realized that. But so an overall question is, what is happening in a healing? So I want to go back to hear a little bit about those angels, maybe, and just hear you describe what it is that you do. If it's a divine energy, if you call it that, do you call it supernatural? Do you call it God? Do you call it intuition? What is actually going on when you heal?
Well, in what I've explored, you know, there's again combination of so many things. So you're asking when I'm working on someone, or when somebody's working on themselves with the processes that I've taught, because it's a little.
That's two different things.
Yeah.
Then I will ask about when you heal someone, if you tap into a divine energy, for example.
Well,
in order to do that.
Absolutely. My belief is that the healing itself comes through the divine energy, and that the people who are, let's say, allowing that to happen have worked enough on themselves to attune themselves to be able to receive, and with understanding and wisdom move the energy to a person in a way that can help them heal. So that's a very generalized way of saying it, but requires many, many years of understanding to do it properly. So, for instance, if I'm working on someone, which I actually don't really do one-on-one healings anymore, but I teach it. So let's say I have a client in front of me. The first thing that I do is actually connect to that higher divine energy. And for different people, that might be called, whether it's called cosmic love or it's called divine intelligence, which is what I've put through the book, just to allow people to have their own idea of what that means. Whether it's, for some people, it might be Christ consciousness. For some people, it might feel like, God or the Holy Spirit or, Buddha or whatever it is. You know, it's really about us saying there is something that's divine and higher in this world, and I'm going to be the vessel for this time because I've attuned myself and worked on myself and created more sensitivity in my being, so that I guess that veil between the physical veil is no longer there. So when I'm connecting to you, I don't see the difference between, let's say, knowing myself and knowing you. So what happens is, for me personally, is once I've done that and I've created that sacred energy of protection as well, then I start to look at the person in terms of understanding all the different aspects that create them, so that I can have a map of how to work on them and find out where I might be able to have shortcuts, because there's 5 things that are related to a particular issue. And by me understanding that they're all connected, almost like a tree of life, then I can help the person a lot faster than if I don't understand the connective tissue in a way. So
there's a system. You're systematic in that sense.
Well, definitely. So I look at, usually the way that I start is I actually connect to the soul intelligence of that person, and I'll say, okay, show me the starting point. Where do we start from? And it might show up either as an image of their throat, or it might show up as a color, or it might show up as a symbol. And then it's my job to decipher what that's about. And so I'll start talking to them and say, you know what, I'm seeing that there is an issue around your throat, and it looks like, let's say there's a black hole in it or in your throat, or it looks like your throat's been really stretched out, or there's not enough, it feels empty to me, whatever the image is. And then we'll start to talk about, well, what does that mean? And as they're talking, I'm actually watching and observing what's connecting around in their body. And then I might see a spark, let's say in their knee, which you wouldn't think that your throat and let's say your knee is connected, but it can completely be connected. So let's say I'll see that the right knee is amplifying or showing red energy. And so I'll go, oh, okay, so I'm feeling like this is connected to how you're having difficulty in moving forward and I already am quite aware that, let's say, the right knee is connected to, to creating in the world, to possibly issues around the father or men, or that it's about us feeling that I can do what it is that I want to do. So I might look at that and go, so it feels to me like those two are connected because you're not communicating, you're not even allowing yourself to acknowledge what it is that you really want to do. And so I'm seeing that your knee is also deteriorating at the same time because how you're living your life is not where your spirit, say soul self, wants to go. So we need to, I can use, let's say, as I was saying, again, my etheric hands, which I work with with etheric energy, and actually go into their knee and clear things out and release stuff and release energy and use all sorts of thousands of processes that I know to exchange and transform and mold and recreate different energy. But then the most important thing for me in terms of actually empowering someone is that they know what to do next, because this is showing up based on how they're living their life, what they're doing, how they're thinking, how they're feeling. So it's no longer, it used to be possible, maybe even around 10, 15 years ago, the energy was different to how it is now. So at that time, it was still possible and much easier to do the work and heal someone. But in the last few years in particular, it's very difficult to do that because now we have to engage our I am, which means we have to engage, this is me. I have to be the one who has to use my own willpower to start to make changes. And yes, somebody else can help me and support me and even create an environment within my being and release what shouldn't be there, where my body can heal and readjust. But I still have to make the changes myself. I can't just go back and continue to live the way that I was, because that's what created this in the first place.
Yeah, wow. But so about angels. So what you just talked about was the soul of the person that you are wanting to heal. But does that person then, how does the whole angel thing work? Can you say something about that?
Yeah, and again, it's quite an interesting, complex subject. But from my understanding, we have 4 archangels plus other angels around us.
We each have that?
Yeah, so it's like when people say, well, Archangel Raphael or Archangel Michael or Archangel Gabriel or Uriel, they think it's only one, but it's actually one. It's like what's the word that I'm looking for? So it's a group of archangels that call themselves Michael, or it's a group of archangels that call themselves Gabriel, and they're there they have a particular role that they do and that they help us with. So,
how do we know this? Is that written in some old text? How do we know that? Is that, do you see it as a healer?
It's both, yes. Some of the most, I guess, enlightened people on this planet that I've come across who have really been masters have described this and talked about, how it goes back to our evolution, how the angelic beings have worked on us and to help us refine the different energy bodies. And I have seen that as well. But there is a lot of ancient information around this subject, and I guess the challenge is always to find what is truth as opposed to what's not. And this is where, when we do develop those intuitive abilities, which is not hard to open up, but hard to refine, because you actually have to be quite disciplined. But when we do start to see and feel and sense those angelic beings, that they're always with us, always working on different aspects of our being. And the more we are, I guess, open to it, because we all still have free will, and the more we're interacting with them and consciously receiving, the more they can help us. The more we deny them, we create, I guess, sheaths around our whole being, which makes it very difficult for these angelic beings to actually work on us. And sometimes, they're just there, but they can't really do much because the person is not open on any level to that kind of work while they're in the physical. They've just totally descended to material.
This is so interesting. I've not been used to thinking about angels like that. And for you, so you're saying it's easy to open up to it, but it's harder to refine your ability to sense it. But for you, it was opened up at only 19 years old.
And, and that was a really amazing gift in a way, but also it was quite challenging because I was navigating something that I really didn't understand. And it's only been it's taken many years, let's just say, to discern what I guess what is true to what is not. And I'm still in that process. And also to understand the mistakes that I had made, because my way of refining the work was more, I got good at certain things, let's just say, like reading how the body communicates. So that's quite easy, for me to do. But there's other aspects that I've never really worked on to refine, which are...
It's always more, right?
Exactly, which are more difficult and more challenging, but also in a sense more evolve you a lot more than just being able to see into a person's body. That's in a way the basic stuff, but there's really high level experiences where you can go into higher worlds and you can access Akashic records, not just to do with a physical element, but actually with real amazing evolutionary kind of expansive experiences that help humanity. So I realized how little we actually all know, and how little I knew. So, for a while there, I thought, I've really done, I guess, can't say mastered, but have some mastery.
Yeah, of course.
Certain aspects, but and there's always the next level, always the next stage.
Absolutely. Wow, it is so fascinating to speak with you. So is there any chance that you have some small exercise that the listeners can do at home if they do feel pain? If maybe it's all over, they don't know exactly where, or maybe it's locally pain. Is there anything you can do? Is it, I don't know, think about a color, or what is your suggestion?
Well, again, so much that we can do, but so if a person that has difficulty to really connect with their body, but their pain is not so bad that they can't move, I suggest with even something as simple as just shaking your right arm for 30 seconds and then stopping and breathing, and then shaking your left arm for 30 seconds and then stopping and breathing, and then just shaking your whole body. That's just the simplest or easiest way to and the fastest to awaken the body. And then starting with the breath. So breathing, when you're breathing in, you breathe very slowly into the solar plexus and then into the chest. So ideally you take about 6 breaths in and then breathe out through your mouth. And again, breathing out through the chest first and then the solar plexus. And you do that several times, and then you start to become aware of, if there was a part of my body that could give me a message, which part of the body would it be? And then ideally you actually place your hands, if you can, on that part of your body and continue to slowly breathe into it and start to become aware of what are the sensations. If there was a shape that the pain was in, what would the shape be? If there was a color that the pain was in, the pain represented, what would it be? If there was feeling, what would it be? And
all of that will take a lot of intuition, right? Because for me, I would be, when you say that, is there a color? I think about 5 colors. Like, you have to sense into what you're saying, right?
Yeah, well, this is part of the slowing down. So you actually go, if I really slow down, what would it be? And, in the first few times it might be very, or even the first month, if you were doing it every day, it would be confusing, possibly. But as you, like anything, as you continued and became better at it, then more and more clarity would come up, and then you might use a particular color and literally imagine it going into that part of your body and dissolving the pain. You might do a process for releasing emotions, and that's part of the reason that I created The Secret Language of Your Body, and also another book called The Secret of Life Wellness, where people actually have processes that they can do when they discover what is it that's hurting, what's the emotion, or, energetically you can imagine that there is a fire in front of you, and you literally, let's say you're feeling anger, and you see the anger like black balls of energy in your heart, and you imagine taking them out and putting them into the purple fire, and then bringing, let's say a bit of gold light into the heart, and allowing that gold light to expand and nourish the heart. You can, in the secret language of your body as well, I talk about doing releasing statements such as something like divine intelligence, please release this stuckness that I'm feeling, as well as all positive and negative charge and all points of view, as well as anything else connected to this, and then repeating.
So it's sort of like a prayer.
Yeah, exactly. And then repeating the word clear, clear, clear with the intention to let it go. So there's, there's so many different ways.
Yeah. Just to engage in one and then stick with that for a while.
Yeah, if somebody doesn't have time, and so they might just pick a color and rub their hands together and then visualize it with the intention. So they've got to put an intention of healing into it and then move it towards a particular part of their body, again, with that intention of dissolving the pain and letting it go. So it just depends the level of pain and the level of sensitivity that the person has.
Thank you so much for that. I just want to thank you so much for talking to me, and I will place a link on my website for your website.
Yeah.
And of course, encourage people to get your books. And but if you want to say anything about how people can find you in the end.
Well, at this point, probably just we're actually in the process of creating a new website. But at this point, if people go either to innersiegel.com, or if they go to Facebook, and that would probably be under innersiegel.hungerford.com. Sorry, not .com, just innersiegel.
Yeah. Yes. On Facebook.
They can email me at innersiegel.com, which my assistant looks at first before she sends to me, but she looks at everything.
So are you able to give long distance guidance somehow?
No, I don't. So what I do at this point is I teach workshops, and I'm going to be doing different webinars. So when people are connected, especially to our mailing list, then they can get details about that. And we're also going to next year start doing online workshops so that people who are not in Australia or Melbourne in particular can still participate.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Thank you so much, Ina. It's been very inspiring. I need to read up on all of this and start doing it.
The other thing that we're going to have coming up very soon is having apps with different audios and processes that I've recorded. So
amazing.
Again,
I love your audiobooks. And because that's, like you said, with your mother, it's so easy. So you can do it even if you can't manage a whole book to just read it in paper. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So people will be able to download the different apps as well and work with them over a period of time. And these apps are quite interesting because you can work not just by yourself, but with several people and create groups and continue evolving in an environment that's really supportive.
Thank you, Ina.
Thank you, Maria, for making this time.
Thank you. And thank you so much for listening and tuning in to this inspiring message. Remember that you can share this podcast with all of your friends if you liked it. And of course, always leave a comment on the Facebook page and let me know what you think. Feel fantastic and healthy and courageous until next time.